Welcome to day 5 of me filming and posting every single day in January 2025. So today, what I was going to do was a review of this book called Show Your Work by Austin Kleon. It was recommended by Ali Abdal for those that are wanting to start a YouTube channel or creative or just wanting to put themselves out there. And so I read this last year, and it is a great little book and I would recommend it. So as I was thinking about doing a review of this book last night, I was flicking through the pages and I couldn't get past a part of the first chapter called Read Obituaries. It is exactly as it sounds. I think I've had death quite a bit on my mind recently, particularly after the Jeju air crash that killed 179 people about a week ago. And so I kept finding myself coming back to these few pages in the book, and I thought maybe I would just speak about that part of the book today as a reminder to me and to you about this inevitability that we're all going to face, that we're all going to die. And in this book, it's an interesting perspective. Essentially, he advises on reading the obituaries every single morning, which is what he does to give you perspective on life. So he talks about, he gives a few examples of people that have had near-death experiences, and he mentions George Lucas, the director of Star Wars, and he was in a bad car accident when he was 17. And the accident was so bad, he flew out of the car, he lost consciousness, he broke multiple bones, and he was in a critical condition. And at the time, he'd wanted to be a race car driver, and apparently after the accident, he decided that he didn't want to pursue that anymore. In the book, he's quoted as saying, "Every day now is an extra day." And I really like that way of thinking, you know, not feeling like you are entitled to the day, but thinking and feeling that if you get to live that day, that it's like a bonus, it's an extra day. And the reality is that there are people that are unwell or that are sick, that for them every single day is literally an extra day. But the reality also is that even if you're not sick, like, you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. The author also talks about Wayne Coyne, who apparently is the lead singer of a band called The Flaming Lips. I've never heard of them before or him, but maybe some of you have. And apparently when he was 16 years old, he was held up at gunpoint in a restaurant. And in the book, he quotes him as saying, "I realized I was going to die. And when that gets into your mind, it utterly changed me. I thought, I'm not going to sit here and wait for things to happen. I'm going to make them happen. And if people think I'm an idiot, I don't care." Now, he also speaks about how you don't have to have a near-death experience to know or remember that you're going to die. And that one way to remind ourselves is by reading the obituaries. And as I said earlier, he does this every single morning. And this is what he says about it. There's a couple of really great quotes in the book. He says, and I quote, "Obituaries are like near-death experiences for cowards. Reading them is a way for me to think about death while also keeping it at arm's length." He also says, obituaries aren't really about death, they're about life. I like that one too. And I think this one is my favourite quote. He says, "Thinking about death every morning makes me want to live." So, some things to think about. And this did get me looking up some local obituaries last night, just before bed. Probably not the best thing to do. I've never looked at obituaries before. I had never really thought about it. And so I looked up some local ones in Sydney, and many were about those that had lived very long and fruitful lives. They had families, and their families had families. And what I was originally going to do was talk about, or maybe read out a few of these obituaries. And then I came back to the Jeju air crash. As I said, it's been on my mind since it happened about a week ago. For those of you that don't know, so there were 175 passengers and 6 crew coming back to Korea from Bangkok, Thailand. I'm sure many of you have seen the video footage of the plane crashing into that concrete structure at the airport. And it is so shocking and so tragic. And my heart goes out to the victims and their families that are mourning their loss. So this morning I read an article a bit about some of the victims and what they were doing on the flight. So these aren't a formal obituary, but I just thought I'd share a little bit about what I learned about some of these victims, to remember them and also just to remind ourselves that tomorrow isn't promised to any of us. There was a family, a mum, dad and a 3-year-old who were returning from their very first family holiday abroad when they died. The dad worked in public relations for a baseball team called the Kia Tigers in Korea. He was described as being great at his work and the entire baseball broadcast team liked him. There was also a family of nine people spanning 3 generations. The eldest was a 79-year-old man with his wife, their 2 daughters, one of their son-in-laws, a granddaughter, and 3 grandsons. 41 of the passengers of the 175 were on the return leg of a package tour that left Muan on Christmas night. There was a man and his 2 sons on a celebratory trip to Thailand to mark the end of their college entrance exams. There were 5 women who worked together that were colleagues at a public education office. They went to Thailand to celebrate their promotions. Two of the passengers who died were Thai nationals. One of them was a 22-year-old student, and she was a student at Bangkok University. She was on her way to Jeju to visit her mum and maybe explore job opportunities. Her uncle is quoted as having said, "She always dreamed of working there as an air hostess," and described her as a pride of the family. The other Thai passenger had been living in South Korea for the last 5 years in the agricultural industry. She travelled to Thailand twice a year during the holidays to visit her sick father and her 2 children, aged 7 and 15. I guess I can't help but makes me think of how this could have been any of us that day, me or you or people that we love, returning home from a holiday overseas. Rest in peace to all those that died on that day.